Om Shanti. Good
Om
evening.
Shanti. Om Shanti, Nita Ben.
Om Shanti, Sister Nita. Lovely to see
Hello.
you. Good evening.
So welcome to this evening session, and it's lovely to have you all with us this evening. And as you know, we are going to be exploring harmony in nature. And I was just thinking of how there's so many lessons and gifts that nature can offer us. And so we've got a very, very special guest with us today, Dr. Dusha Nova. I can never pronounce that right, so please forgive me. Dr. Dusha Novakovic. Thank you. Is currently living and working in the UK, and she has been working as an academic within mathematics and the computer science fields for over 25 years, mainly in the UK. She also shares that she's been practicing meditation for over 20 years. So she has a lot of experience within working with the mind and beginning to see the correlation with nature and how everything is interconnected. And she also is very passionate about life. And she also has a very particular interest in the correlation between our mindsets and the quality of our lives. She also shared that she strives to understand the self and life in great depth and shares her findings with joy. And so I'm sure you all are looking forward to listening to Dr. Dusha share with us some of her insights and experiences and perhaps some of the tools that she might have for us. So without taking up any more of your time, I'm going to welcome Dusha to take us through things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nita. Thank you for the welcome and thank you for the introduction. Actually, what you said, the way you introduced me really introduced even how I'm going to approach the topic also. So it was very much in line. Thank you for that. And thank you all for coming and for being interested. So tonight's topic is harmony with nature. And when we say harmony with nature, without any explanation, if we don't add anything else, it somehow indicates that we are referring to the physical nature, the material world, in which case we would need to be in harmony with it. However, that is the first mistake we make. The physical nature, of course, and the physical world is one world. However, it's part of one bigger world where there is also a spiritual aspect. So what I'm trying to say is this is one world, one system where we all need to be, everything needs to be in harmony. So it's not like we are spiritual being and we need to be in harmony with something that we are not in it, something on the side, and we need to be in harmony with it. No, we are not separate. We are part of the same system, which really means we need to be in harmony with self. However, this is much deeper than it may sound right now, but hopefully the depth will come through what else I share tonight. So we are one with nature already, but in two ways. And what are the ways? First of all, our body is physical, and it will automatically be part of the physical nature. So I'm a spiritual being, I'm not my body, I'm using this body in order to be part of this physical nature. Okay, so in that sense, we with the bodies, we take part in this tangible, visible nature, okay, the physical world. However, the spiritual world, where we as souls, and I'm sure you're not surprised that I'm saying this because this is a spiritual organization. So you're not surprised that I say that we are spiritual beings, I hope. So what I'm trying to say is that the spiritual world also belongs to the nature. Maybe not the physical nature, but the spiritual nature, the more abstract nature we cannot see, we cannot touch, but we all know that we exist. Just like the thoughts. Thoughts are not tangible, they're not visible, but nobody denies that they exist. So in the same way, we as spiritual beings, even though we are not visible, not tangible, we do exist. Okay. So in this world where we have two parallel sections, the physical and the spiritual, we need to work together. And how are they comparable? I'm not sure of the nature of the audience tonight. I don't know what your scientific background is, but I'll keep it simple. You probably know that matter is eternal. Okay, things can change, but matter, physical things can change. Matter cannot be completely destroyed. It just changes its form. Okay, so it may turn from water into steam, from steam into clouds, from clouds into water again. These are only different forms of matter, but matter remains matter. Okay, so it's not destroyed, it just transforms. While parallelly in the spiritual world, in the spiritual section of the system, I want to say, because it's one world altogether, is also eternal. The souls cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, so they're eternal. The only difference from the physical world, from the matter, is that the souls have their integrity. Each soul has an integrity, cannot be divided, merged with some other soul or anything like that. It's integral and hopefully sovereign. To start with, it is sovereign, but when we allow that something affects us, then we are not. But ideally, it should be sovereign, but definitely integral. Always remains its integrity. Slightly different from the physical world, but why am I comparing the two? Is because they are both eternal. They are parallel and they function together. We might say that the spiritual part of the world is primary and the physical is secondary, perhaps because it's somehow sequential. It's a consequential. It's a consequence of. However, they are running parallelly all the time. One depends on the other. These are two codependent worlds. And whilst we believe that we are superior beings, humans, in comparison with animals, plants, and the physical world in general, we must not undermine nature. I'm going to address this several times today. Because, for example, when I say nature, it's tricky because I've already introduced to contain the physical and the spiritual. But if I just refer for a moment just to the physical nature including plants and animals, really this system is self-sufficient. It can survive without us, without humans, it can survive, whilst humans cannot survive without nature. So that means we are the extra bit there. We are not necessary. And we do happen for a reason, humans, I'll share in a moment. But just to complete what I've just started to say, so this physical nature, I've just defined it, it is self-sufficient. And have you noticed that nature just gives? It just gives and gives, it gives. it is very wise also. So the nature that we are referring to gives us sunshine, gives us air, gives us. However, at the same time, we can say it's not forgiving. However, these are strong words. How I would like to say it rather, it is more like, you know, when there is a law of gravity. So you know that if I'm holding something now and I let go, it's going to fall. It's a rule. Okay. So if you dig a hole in the middle of the earth, under the surface of the earth, if you dig a hole forever, it's not, I mean, forever, I mean, long time, forever, it's not possible, because eventually the nature is going to have to adjust. The gravity pulls and the surface will drop. It's simple. The rules hold. So in that sense, it's not forgiving. Like, oh, never mind, you are digging a hole. I'm going to stay stable all the time. In that sense, it's not, we can say that it's not forgiving in that sense, because there is action and reaction. Every action has a reaction in both parts of the world, the physical and the spiritual. So the third Newton's law, or the karma law of karma, stands always. Law of karma is in the spiritual world. The third Newton's law is in the physical world. And also the physical nature is wise. And I will explain towards the end where the wisdom lies. But just for now, I will say that the wisdom lies in the stability, in the balance. But I'll explain more specifically towards the end what I mean by this. So really, in conclusion, after what I've said, I would like to say that the spiritual and the physical world are part of one, perhaps complex, but one system, and they are codependent. The vibrations from one are shared with the other. Why vibrations? Because energy, so matter, mass, has energy in the physical world, but souls, thoughts, mind, it's all lots of energy there. So really, we might be different energy, but both energies, the spiritual and the physical, produce vibrations, and we are feeling them both. The physical is feeling the spiritual vibrations, and the spiritual world feels the physical vibrations. So where is this, the process of codependency? Just to go a little bit deeper in what I've just started saying. So we already said before that thoughts are not visible, they're not tangible, they definitely exist. What are thoughts by definition? I'll give you a hint. I'm sure if I asked you, where is your level of energy when you have good, positive, constructive thoughts? You will probably say high level. But if I asked you, where is your level of energy when your thoughts are negative, distracting, not focused, yeah, you would probably say low. So this is when we are worrying, when we are stressed, when we are angry, energy is depleted. So really, this level of energy, where it stands when we have good positive thoughts and low negative thoughts, really indicates that thoughts really in the essence are energy. So thoughts are energy. And now, if we also the mind is also something that nobody denies it exists, even though it is also not tangible, not visible. However, what do we do in the mind? What is the mind? Perhaps we can define the mind as, we can't say just organ because it's not a physical organ, but we can say abstract organ. It's an abstract organ where we generate and process thoughts. And thoughts being energy, you can imagine with all those thoughts being generated and processed in the mind, there is a lot of dynamics of energy in the mind. And the mind is that organ of a soul. It's not the only organ. There are many more, but this is not the topic for tonight. So the mind is an abstract organ of the soul. Why abstract? Because the soul is abstract, is not visible, is not tangible. Where there is a lot of dynamics of energy, because it's processing all those thoughts, which are energy. And now you might recall from early education in physics, or maybe even later, that energy materializes itself. Vice versa, mass has energy. So this is really showing the process of codependency, that even though the spiritual part is not visible, it influences very much the material world, but also the material world, the energy of the material world influences the spiritual world. So this is how they are totally codependent, and they totally depend one on the other. So it's like dynamics that if in order to function properly, those two systems, actually is one system, but those two subsystems, let's say, have to be in harmony in order to function properly. However, right now, why are we talking about harmony with nature? Because we have fallen out of harmony. Those two systems, something went wrong on the way. But before it went wrong, let's start from the very beginning. Once upon a time, there were souls who came to this planet Earth, to this physical world. And these souls who have freshly come to this planet were absolutely perfect. They were aware that their souls, so this was their natural nature, was to be the sources, to be the source, each soul to be the source of love, source of peace, source of happiness. And this is that eternity, this is the constancy. But what is not a constancy is the awareness of the soul. So at the very beginning, these souls were very self-aware, very highly conscious. They were aware that they were spiritual beings. They were aware that they are the source of love, peace, and happiness, i.e., they were aware that they have everything they need. And they entered this physical world for one simple reason: to experience and express selves. Because without a body, we cannot experience and express. When souls are just souls, they just exist. The only verb we can use to describe what souls do is to be. They just exist, they just are, and that's it. However, if in order to experience and express, we need a physical body. And that is the very reason why we enter the physical world. So we materialize the energy into a physical body. And the physical body, while the soul is in the physical body in the very beginning, even though it's in a physical body, it is aware it's a soul and knows why they've entered the body. And why do we need to really experience and express? Because the feelings of love, peace, and happiness, through expression and experience, they enhance the feeling. Okay, so if I'm here giving you a lot of love there, I'm giving you lots of happiness, I'm full, I'm content, and I'm just fine. I'm full of love, full of happiness, and I'm giving it to you, just radiating it to you. Okay, and nothing is missing, I'm fine. However, if my love and happiness bounces back from another source of love and happiness, then the feelings get enhanced. So We invest some happiness, but we get even more, so it's enhanced. So sharing enhances. So this is the very reason why we are in these bodies. Okay, however, we went from one life to another, time passed, we started experiencing the, again, part of nature, part of the body, started experiencing joy through the physical senses. And the physical senses exist for one simple reason to start with, only one simple reason to start with, which is to interpret the physical world to the soul so that the soul can function in the physical world. We didn't need at the very beginning those senses for experiencing joy, because we were totally joyous naturally, because we were highly conscious. However, slowly, we started experiencing enjoyment from the physical senses. We started forgetting slowly that we are souls. We started believing that we are bodies. And then when we are a body, I need to eat. So then I need to eat more. So the consciousness drops down slowly. And then we start influencing in a physical way the nature, but also in a vibrations way. So at the very, very beginning, when we started the story, once upon a time when we freshly came to this planet, then we were very highly conscious, and the nature was absolutely perfect. It was in total harmony, the nature with itself, but we with nature also. Even with a thought, we would be able to materialize things. However, as our consciousness degraded, our vibrations degraded, we started believing that we are this physical body. If we believe that we are a physical body that needs to eat, I want to eat, that means I will prioritize feeding my body to feeding other bodies. So that means I'll want more. Then I will want something else. Maybe I would like to not walk, but to go on wheels. Where do the wheels come? Where does the petrol come from? I have to start digging the planet, getting the elements of the planet, chemically decomposing and composing and combining with something else, physically decomposing, biologically decomposing. So really what we were doing, we cannot take something from the planet and throw it somewhere outside of the planet. It stays on the planet. It doesn't disappear. However, we have decomposed one composition and created another composition, which was not very natural. So everything is here, what used to be here, but we have completely shuffled it. And this is how we made plastic. This is how we made petrol. This is how we made porcelain and everything else that we have produced with so-called intelligence, human intelligence. So we started digging the planet, but polluting the planet, not thinking about the planet, not thinking about the future, but thinking about only us as bodies. Because when we believe that we are spiritual, that we are souls, we have much higher consciousness. Number one, we know that we are not excluded system. We need to function together, but also we have higher consciousness that not to pollute. As our consciousness was going down and down, our awareness was going down and down, we became more selfish. We were not worrying about the future of the planet. We were not thinking about how we were damaging, or we were only thinking about us. And we were grabbing. So we have come to a stage where the consciousness is, the awareness is very low. And this is why we are now struggling with the pollution and with the state of the planet. I've read somewhere, I can't remember where, but or heard, maybe I can't even remember that when we started digging and rearranging the planet, the red Indians kept saying that the changes on the planet are hurting the planet, are hurting the nature. Huh? It's quite deep. But of course, we discarded all that and we continued digging. So we have come now to a point where we have a lot of population, and we know that each human being is dramatically polluting the planet. That means we have completely fallen out of harmony with nature. And the nature is suffering. But because we are one closed system, we cannot just have nature suffering. We depend on nature. So maybe at one moment the nature was suffering, but in long term, we are all suffering because we are part of one system, one single system. So even though we have, nature has been generous, we have enough food on the planet for all these almost 8 billion people on the planet. We have enough food, but because we don't really care much, but also because as a consequence of low consciousness, our communication has lowered its quality also. It's of low quality, even though we have all the possible means of communication, as you can imagine. Look at me. I'm in Europe and I'm talking to South Africa. You know, it's amazing. So we have achieved in that sense, in communications way, we have achieved so much. However, has the quality of our communication increased in the world? I see that the more means of communication we have, the lower the quality of our communication. Don't you agree? And we have so many means of communication now. You name it, it exists. It's incredible how many ways of communication we have at the moment. However, if we have enough food on the planet, and if there is no stopping us of communication, nothing is stopping us to communicate, however far away from each other we are, why is 1/3 of the world starving, whilst the other part of the world is throwing away 1/3 of the food? That is because the quality of our communication is very low. If we communicated, we could have distributed these foods to the relevant places. And I won't preach here very much. I'm sure that in your part of the world are even more aware than we are in Europe of what I'm just sharing. So we are where we are. How are we going to get out of here? Let's remember where we started. Remember when I said once upon a time, there were souls who came to the planet. They were highly aware of who they are and why they're here. So what we need to do now, of course, I'm not going to talk about very much about these, scientists say, irreversible amount of pollution on the planet. And it seems so from scientific point of view, definitely. It seems irreversible. And it's really seems more and more catastrophic, because global warming is not only increasing of heat and then, oh, we will be warmer. There is a lot of other consequences. The ice melts. There is a lot of methane, lots of carbon monoxide that is tied in the ice. When the ice melts, we are going to all these chemicals that are not good for the humans being released in the atmosphere, and we cannot function with that in that way. But also with carbon monoxide, you know, we need oxygen in order to think. We need carbon dioxide, not carbon monoxide. However, from carbon monoxide, the brain is not able to think straight. So while we are polluting the planet and the conditions are becoming worse for our body to function in, but we are also decreasing the ability of thinking clearly with all that carbon monoxide being increased in the atmosphere. So what I'm trying to say, we are in a deeper trouble, but we will be less able to think. So it seems like a, catastrophe. However, nature is here to save us because nature is much wiser. Now I mean the nature, including, all the physical things, including the animals and the plants. I'm not saying that there is intelligence in the nature, but there is some deep wisdom. However, we'll come to that in a moment. What I want to say before that is, again, returning back to the very beginning as we started. Why was it all in harmony at the very beginning? How did it, on the basis of what was it all working in harmony and being like heaven? It is on the basis of the soul being pure. What do we mean pure? Means there was nothing else embedded in the soul apart from love, peace, happiness, wisdom, joy, bliss, and many things alike. That means high consciousness, high self-awareness. And as a consequence, nature was also perfect. The matter was perfect. Nothing was polluted. The world was perfect. So, what we need to do right now, the scientists are saying the process is irreversible. Okay. They say we can still do something to slow down the process, but we cannot go back. However, we, from spiritual point of view, should know a bit better. You know why scientists might have not found a way how to reverse it? Because we haven't come to that yet. Maybe we are paying attention to wrong things. For example, we are now playing highly intelligent to a point that we are creating robots and we are creating artificial intelligence and artificial feelings and everything else, artificial thinking. Okay, it's all good. It's all it's a result of our intelligence. However, not so much wisdom, because what is the point? We don't know what to do with ourselves here on the planet. We are so many, and there are so many ill and depressed and hungry. Why create artificial one? We need to make it better for the ones that exist already. So, so what I'm trying to say is, if we paid more attention to discovering other things in science, for example, how to reverse this, I'm sure a group of scientists are doing this, but perhaps not enough, because there aren't many of those. And really, it doesn't mean that science is not going to achieve this. It doesn't mean it's not going to find a way to quickly reverse the process. Because what do we call science right now? Science is a set of all those things that we have managed to logically explain to ourselves. If we haven't logically, when I say logic, meaning the way we understand it, yeah, logically, we have managed to explain it to ourselves. But there are so many things that we haven't managed to explain to ourselves, and therefore they are not part of science. For example, when we were experiencing thunder thousands of years ago, we were thinking, oh, what is this? It's a miracle. What is this, right? However, when science worked it all out, we managed to explain to ourselves what it is, and now we know why it happens. It's nothing to do with miracles. It's nothing to do with gods being angry with us or anything like that. It's just a physical event, which you can explain. So one day If we manage to work it out, it will become part of science. If we don't, it won't become part of science. What I'm trying to say is, if science doesn't know, it doesn't mean it cannot happen. And here, this is coming from a scientist, huh? Because we are all doing doctorates in order to discover something new that hasn't been discovered yet. And only then it becomes part of science. Before we explain it, is not science. So there is no conflict between science and spirituality, really. When we find something, it will become part of science. Before, it will be a miracle. Okay, so going back, we may not know how to go fast track back to pure nature. However, and this is why we need to work on purifying our consciousness. Purifying our consciousness means going back to the awareness that I am source of love, I'm source of peace, and I'm source of happiness. And the only reason why I'm embodied on this planet is to experience and express myself. I love peace and happiness. That's all. Can you imagine what the world would be like if every single soul that is in a body right now would have this awareness? Heaven would come back, right? It would be heavenly. It would be great. And then you might ask, what's that to do with nature when we increase our consciousness? Yes, there is. We explained earlier how the vibrations work. These two subsystems are part of one system, and they are codependent. It wasn't a coincidence that nature was pure at the very beginning when our consciousness was pure. The same thing is going to happen again as a consequence of us raising our awareness. So our duty of you and me, if you are environmentalist, active in that towards that direction, great. I'm also active. Perhaps I could do more, but I'm doing enough to say that I'm active in that field. However, parallelly with this, what we as human beings can also do is work on increasing our consciousness, paying attention to purifying ourselves, going back to our original self, and nature will follow because it has that embedded wisdom in it. I was always wondering, how can nature do it so fast? But let's remind ourselves, if you have a river that is highly polluted, lots of mud, lots of chemicals, lots of waste, I will name now a process that we have discovered in science already, which is apply heat to water, it will evaporate. Once you condense it, it is a pure water. Such simple, doable way to purify water in a very effective and fast way, even though the water may seem irreparably polluted. So this is one, we've discovered it in science, condensation of water, evaporation, condensation, water again, pure water, may not have minerals, but it's pure water, H2O, and absolutely pure. But also to remind you, remember when the lockdown started, a month or two after, kangaroos started running on the streets of Australia. I heard also penguins started running on the streets of South Africa, right? You tell me if it's true. Then we have had deers coming on the streets in London and goats in Wales. So it took only a month or two of withdrawal of the humans for the nature to come back in. So the nature is much faster than we think. It's going to come back. And try not clean your house. It's going to accumulate lots of dust, lots of cobweb. The nature will claim everything we have changed, it will claim back very fast. And I'm sure there are some processes that nature has that I'm not aware of, but my duty is to purify myself. the nature will adjust. And then once again, in that way, we will be in harmony again. The whole system will be in harmony again. Okay, so hopefully I've provoked some thinking and you might have some questions.
Thank you, Sister Dusha. It was very lovely. You know, and as you were talking, there was, I remembered something many, many years ago when we had gone to the beach with Sister Maureen. And as we were leaving, we were gone from some meditation. And as we were leaving, she said, were you taking from nature or were you giving? And it left such a deep impression on me. And so when you said sharing enhances, it was just such a lovely concept that resonated so deeply with me. So thank you for bringing that memory to my surface.
It's very good, and it's a very good comparison, very good example, actually, because nature is giving, but we are taking selfishly instead of giving back and then enhancing it all.
So we're going to open it up for questions. So if anyone has any questions that you'd like to ask Dusha, please feel free to either unmute, or if you prefer to put it in the chat, that's also fine, and we can take it with her. Okay, doesn't seem like anything's coming through yet. Maybe something will come through, but something I'd like to ask, if that's okay. You know, you were talking about intelligence and how everything has become like artificial intelligence, but earlier you spoke about wisdom lies in the stability and balance. And so I was just wondering, how would you define or describe intelligence as opposed to wisdom? Because sometimes I think we learn a lot, we hear a lot, and we think we're wise as a result of that. So I'm wondering if maybe you could just shed some light on that.
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. When normally in everyday life, when we say the word intelligent, when we use the word intelligence, we really mean rational intelligence. And this rational intelligence has, for some reason, gained a very high profile. And we really, for a very long time, paid attention only to this intelligence. However, later, now, closer to the current moment, we have started talking about social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and many other intelligences, which are also part of they're very important kinds of intelligences, because rational intelligence does not equal wisdom, not at all. Actually, sometimes it can be in the contrary. For example, if you have a scientist with very high rational intelligence, they come up with something very big and they're very proud of themselves. They become professors, they get a Nobel Prize, and they obviously, the world is showing them they are more valuable than the rest of the world. And that is a very tricky time when the ego starts working in full power. However, a wise person does not have ego. That means rational intelligence and wisdom are very different. One does not apply the other. Perhaps wisdom may apply intelligence. However, rational intelligence definitely doesn't imply wisdom. So we really need to pay attention to be intelligent in many ways, not only rationally, not only to work out logically something or to work out something in science. We need to be able to manage our mind. We need to be able to manage our behavior. We need to be able to manage our feelings. I would rather use the word feelings than emotions. We need to be able to manage ourselves in society. So these are all different intelligences, which altogether will be wisdom. However, wisdom is like white light, where you don't see all the intelligences separately. It's like the rainbow. It has 7 colors, but when you put them together is the white light. So we need all these intelligences in order to be full white light in form of wisdom. Is this answering your question?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. I just saw there's a question that's on YouTube from one of the participants that's watching on YouTube. So she's asking, where did the original souls on our planet come from?
Okay, so this is a tricky question because we are using the word where, which is a physical world indicating location, whilst souls are not physical and they have no location. Okay, so, but we can answer this question abstractly. We will say location, but it's not going to be geographical, physical location. So if we can just visualize, because we cannot see, it's invisible. If we can visualize a world where all the souls reside and we can appropriately name it soul world. This is where the souls come from.
Great. Thank
But it's
you.
an abstract world. It's not something that I can tell you it's on planet Venus. No, it's abstract.
There's one question that's come through. Please share insights on managing those intelligence, that is feelings, emotions, etc. briefly.
So briefly, emotions are feelings without control. If I have control over myself, i.e., I am aware who I am, I'm a source of love, peace, and happiness, and everything I do is experience and express love, peace, and happiness. This is the healthy state of being. This is the stable state of being. Whilst if I have some feelings without control, like anger, jealousy, worry, sadness, any of these things are without control, these are emotions. So really, emotions are, as soon as we feel an emotion, it means there is not enough, like darkness is lack of light, emotions are lack of awareness. I don't know who I am. So when I forget that if I am aware that I'm love, how can I be angry? If I'm angry, that means I've forgotten that I'm love. I've forgotten that I have happiness. So any emotion is really lack of awareness, lack of wisdom. If we can accept this definition of emotion.
Great. Thank you so much. Doesn't seem like there's any more
Om
questions.
Shanti. Om
Ah,
Shanti.
Om Shanti.
It's such a beautiful talk. During this pandemic, there was a lot of people were sort of spiritually awakened because of the state we were put in. Do you think the whole of society is really awakening, or are we going slightly backwards again?
I would say, from my observation, that a part of the society is definitely awakening. However, on average, we are still, as a civilization, degrading, because after all those findings and all those fights against the pandemic, we still get people who are protesting and against this, against that. I'm not saying they shouldn't be against, but the way it's all done, it's with a very low consciousness. So we are going out and protesting instead of going in and sending the vibrations. I mean, even protests are sometimes effective, but I'm not against them. It is the method that we are doing it. Because in order to organize protests, in order to do all this, in order to be against something, it creates so much noise in our minds. And this is the very reason why we got out of harmony with nature in the first place. You know, cats, dogs, mice, they don't think. This is why they have very high intuition. They run away when danger is coming. They know something is going on. How have we lost our intuition? We have lost our intuition with all that noise that we have in the minds. Let me be against this. Why should I wear a mask? Why vaccination? Why the science this? Why the science that? Why this government fooling us? Lots of noise that is really just taking us further away from the nature, further away from the intuition, further away from ourselves. This is the main thing. This is why I started this talk today by saying that we are one system. I need to be in harmony with self as part of nature, and I will automatically be in harmony with nature.
Thank you, sister. Thank you very much.
So I'm just looking at time. If there isn't anyone else that has a burning question, I'm wondering if maybe you can lead us into a short meditation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So sit comfortably, lean back, and relax. While being aware of the physical surroundings, gently withdraw your attention from the physical world and take your attention within. And continue going within, deeper and deeper. Visualize yourself traveling deeper and deeper until you reach that moment of absolute silence. And experience that deep silence. Feel the silence. Merge with silence. Be silence. And in this state of deep silence, get in touch with your real self, being the source of love, peace, happiness. Being in total harmony with self. And radiating love and peace and happiness around, everywhere. Just radiating, giving it back to nature. starting the process of harmonization. Starting the process of self-purification and the purification of nature. And while maintaining this state of being, gently return your attention back to this beautiful physical nature. Om Shanti.
So thank you so much. I think that meditation just really took us to that place of original self that you started with, that perfect, beautiful self. So thank you so much. I think I appreciate the easiness with which one can tap into that space. Dr. Dusha, thank you so much for taking the time and being with us this evening. And I think you've given us quite a lot of food for thought as a way of seeing how is it that we can now approach our relationship with nature as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for attention, and thank you for very nice, very good constructive questions. So
Lovely.
thank you all. It was nice spending the evening with you. So thank you.
Just a request before you leave from this evening session. There's just a few questions. If you could take a few minutes to answer them, we'd love to get feedback of our programs. So I'm just going to launch a little poll. If you can just spend a few minutes answering some of these questions, and we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening and take care. Om Shanti.